Next up, Julia Lundstrom. We talk about brain health. She's an expert in neuroscience, and she's taught her strategies to over 100,000 people. And so she's gonna get your brain health exactly where it needs to be. So enjoy this interview. Julia, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Kristi. Thanks for having me.
Well, to start off, tell me about you and your business.
I'd love to. Thanks. Let's see. My business is Simple Smart Science. I started it back in 2012-13, and we help older adults, typically 55 plus, improve their brain health and their memory. And we do it through a very holistic, full body approach.
I want to know more. How do you do that? Like, tell me more. Tell me about the background.
So we do it through, and we have everything from supplements and books and newsletters, a one-on-one coaching program that we help them, lots of workshops, education. We're an education-first company. So what we do is most of the time I hold workshops, and I'll teach for an hour before I ever even talk about anything that we have for sale. So it's really, my motto is kind of, if they walk away having learned one thing from me, I've made the world just a little bit better, right? One thing that they'll go implement.
So these are people having memory problems, health problems. Like, what is your typical customer?
It's typically people that, as you get a little bit older, you kind of, my memory is just not as sharp as it used to be. We're definitely not working with dementia patients or somebody who's already kind of gone over the line there. But we're a prevention company, so we can help people absolutely reverse current memory and brain health issues that they're having. And then we love to, I have a whole workshop on, it's called the Definitive Guide to Alzheimer's Prevention. It's how to prevent these diseases because they are preventable. We know that now.
Wow. I want to dive more into that, but
Sure.
Tell me about you and how you came to this place. Like, tell me your background.
Yeah, so my background traditionally is actually I'm a certified financial planner, so
Well,
totally
perfectly.
opposite. I sold my practice in 2009 and really got into the health space. My brother and I got into CrossFit and really were wanting to do something in the health field because we really were passionate about it. And so we were working for a tea company at the time. I was just a hired gun CEO, and I brought him on as my COO. And we went from 600,000 in sales to almost 2 million in sales in 18 months. And I was like, why are we doing this for somebody else, So we both jumped ship, and we were just kind of looking for that synergy. And at the same time, my aunt was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then my brother, actually, at the ripe young age of 44, had a heart attack.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's rampant in our family, heart disease. My dad had 3. My uncle passed away. 2 of my uncles passed away from it. I mean, it's just this, it's really big in our family. So 44, he had his first heart attack, and I don't know if you know, but the statins that people take once they have that really, really affect your memory. And so he was having memory issues, and synchronistically we met a scientist who was working on a new formula for supplements. This is back in 2012. Very few people had heard of nootropics. This is way before, bulletproof coffee or anything of that sort. So it just kind of all fell into place, and we decided to go start this company using our first nootropics that we had built with actually a group of scientists at that point. So that was really exciting, and we really wanted to get into the young entrepreneurs, 30s and 40s, taking their game to the next level. And we just couldn't find the marketing. And so about a year, we struggled really hard for the first year. And a year later, we did a survey, and we found, our demographic is definitely the baby boomer generation. People that they see themselves kind of slipping in the 50s and 60s and want to do something about it. And I fell in love with that demographic. My brother, not so much. So he's still part owner, but he decided to go do something else about 5 years ago now.
So I don't know if everybody knows. Tell me about nootropics and the supplement side. Tell me, what's your secret sauce? Like,
Yeah,
what is that?
I'd love to. So we're not kind of that bulletproof coffee, give you that jolt and make you stimulated and all the racetams that people use to get hyperfocus and kids are using in colleges to get hyperfocus and an edge up in their studies. That's not us at all. Again, we're really a prevention company. And so our main product is Mind Boost Day, and that's been our flagship product. We have a Mind Boost Day and a Mind Boost Night, and they're to work in conjunction with each other. And really, the secret sauce is, I mean, we have ingredients that are scientifically backed. We're that's simple, smart science, right? We're a scientifically based company. So everything has to have a lot of studies behind it. And so our ingredients have all the studies behind it, really high purity, and then the right dosages, which people don't quite get. But it's just like if, a doctor writes you a prescription and he's like, you take this time a day, how many times, and the dose. Mm-hmm. And most supplements have nowhere near the dosages they need to go back the scientific studies that are there. And typically you can tell. I mean, if it's a supplement that lists 40 ingredients and you only take 2 pills, I can guarantee you it doesn't have the dosages to do anything, right? So we're really big on the science, and we just went out and found the scientific studies on ingredients that we thought would be a really good blend. Of course, we had a scientific team help us, and we created a proprietary formula that's still our formula to this day. It's had a little bit of tweaks here and there. It started out with some synthetic ingredients, and we've gone completely all natural now. So instead of using like folic acid, we use folate, which is the plant-based version that's more easily metabolized, things like that.
So you have the supplements, and then tell me more about the educational side and what's the tell me more about the entire program and what we can. Your customer buys the supplements and the information?
Well, so no, the information's free. I just love to teach. I could talk for hours about brain health,
Tell us about brain health.
So, I mean, it's just that. It's, most people don't realize, we like to say your brain is the cockpit to your whole body. Dr. Amen always says, if it works right, you work right? And people don't think about it. I mean, in our coaching program, we get people that say, oh, I never even thought about brain health. I didn't even know what brain health was. They know to lose weight. They know to focus on their heart health. They know to focus on their blood pressure, all this kind of stuff, or their gut or whatnot. But brain health is pulling it all together, right? I mean, you're not going to have good heart health if your brain isn't working right, if your hormones aren't working right, if your chemicals aren't working right. So it's really looking at all that. And so in my workshops, one of the biggest things is neuroinflammation. It does affect your brain very negatively. And so I talk for an hour about it and how to reduce inflammation. Of course, if you're reducing neuroinflammation, you're reducing all inflammation.
How do you know if you have inflammation in your brain?
Typically, it just comes from, almost everybody does,
yeah.
But it really comes from your lifestyle habits. So in my workshop, I actually have a quiz of 10 different things. And it's certain things like, if you're feeling like your joints are tight or you're not sleeping well, those are all either signs of or symptoms of inflammation. Mm-hmm. And so I go through 10 different things on what means you may have inflammation. Now, you can get tested for inflammation as well, but frankly, with the lifestyles that we lead, with the massive processed food, the massive amounts of screen time we have, the massive amounts of everything that people do that are not good for them, I can tell you almost everybody has neuroinflammation. And so that really slows down your brain. You can think of it, if your brain's like this and it is inflamed, how much harder the electricity has to pass through your brain, the neurons have to work. And then what happens is every single time a thought passes, the neurons pass messages through your brain, it leaves behind a little bit of trash. Mm. And that trash builds up, and then it causes inflammation, because that's how your brain is reacting to it if you don't get rid of it. One of the best ways to get rid of it is, frankly, sleep. That's when your brain goes through and it's just, it cleans out your brain city. So you have all day long that, people are driving on the streets, creating pollution in the air and throwing their trash on the streets. And at night, the cleaning crew comes out and they're fixing the potholes and they're sweeping the streets. And that's the best way to get rid of all that trash that can cause inflammation.
So you mentioned something, well, what if we're not sleeping well? So give us some advice on how to sleep.
So I focus so much in my business on, and what I teach, it's my 10 pillars of brain health, and sleep is one of them. And it's one of the most important. You'd be surprised to learn the most important one, but it is one of the most important. And most people aren't, especially when they get older. I have a whole workshop called The New Science of Age-Related Sleep Problems. They aren't sleeping that well. And typically it's medication-based a lot of times. The average sleeping pill, there's a new study out. It shows that it only increases your sleep time by 18 minutes. But because it knocks people out so much, they wake up feeling like they had a better night's sleep, right? Because they're just completely comatose for the night. Well, that in turn messes up being able to sleep naturally. And as we all know, right, you go to the doctor and you talk to them about maybe sleep problems, and they don't help you fix it. They just give you a sleeping pill, right? Or you can buy melatonin over the counter, which is an even worse one, because those they're selling 10, 20 milligrams. And the dose for melatonin for a single dose is typically 1 or 2 grams. And people are taking tons of it in a night. And then that messes up your melatonin levels so you can't sleep. So this goes on for decades and decades. And you can imagine if you're not getting enough sleep, you're 7 to 9 hours a night, and this happens for years and years and years. And you're trying to make decisions going through having to navigate this trash city. And so sleep is one of the most critical ones. And the best way to get a good night's sleep is actually starts first thing in the morning. And that's what people don't know either. Like going out and getting the fresh morning sun first thing sets your melatonin levels for the day. And so if you do that, you're better off, you're going to get a better night's sleep that night.
So can you tell us all 10 pillars? Just give us give us a touch. I think that's really important, what we're discussing.
Yeah, and so I think one of the biggest things is that most people, like when it goes back to sleep, is they understand it's important. They don't understand how it's important to your brain health and your memory. I mean, memory is when your memories, or sleep is when your memory consolidates. So if you have your short-term memories through the day and you're not getting enough sleep at night, guess what? Those memories gone forever.
Wow.
Because that's the time that your memories stick. And they actually believe that's why you dream now. It's your brain kind of making the memories stick, and that's why it comes in random order, and your brain's trying to figure out where they go, right?
Interesting.
So that's what I love to teach is, okay, so we know a lot of the pillars are very similar to just being healthy, right? You got to eat right, get out the processed foods, get out the inflammatory foods, put in foods that are anti-inflammatory, like your salmons, your walnuts, things like that. So sleep, food, exercise. People, they think of exercise, frankly, either for their heart health or to lose weight. It is one of the most important things you can do for your brain health. It increases kind of this miracle grow protein in your brain called BDNF. And it increases your stem cell growth in your hippocampus, like all these different things. Exercise is amazing for. Also, using your memory.
Ooh.
That's a really big one. If I had it here, I would show it to you. The cell phone. One of the biggest damaging memory things you can have. Why? You don't use your memory anymore. You don't know, I bet you probably know like your childhood phone number. I bet you couldn't tell me the phone number of your best friend, maybe your best friend, but
Right, exactly.
I mean, you just don't even try to remember anymore.
Right.
Right? We just don't use our memories at all. How many times have you looked up the same thing on Google?
That is so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big one,
Yeah.
is actually using your memory. So we go through a lot of memory techniques and teaching people how to use their memory. Everybody has the same, I can never remember names. Well, physiology, we don't actually remember someone's name. We're not meant to. When we meet somebody for the first time, our lizard brain is going, is this a threat or a friend? And so what's the first thing you do when you meet somebody? You introduce yourself and tell them your name. Your brain is still trying to figure out if you're a friend or a foe. So of course you don't remember it, right? So there's mnemonics that you can use to remember names. And frankly, the best way to do it is just to ask again. 30 seconds. If you just wait 30 seconds to get the name, you're more likely to remember it once your brain gets over that friend or foe thing, right? So I always ask a second time, and then I'll also tell them my name a second time because they didn't remember your name either, 100% of the time. The next thing is challenging yourself. So that's a really big one, and when we work with older adults, this becomes a giant one because especially once they go into retirement, there's 2 days of your life you're most likely to die. The day you're born and the day you retire.
Wow.
You have the highest probability. And people that go into retirement, they lose their purpose, right? And they end up sitting, so many of our clients, they start out sitting in front of a TV much of the day. TV or computer, much of the day. Mm-hmm. We just brought on a new client that for our coaching program that literally is watching TV for 8 to 9 hours a day and is on the computer until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. after that. And that messes with everything. I mean, you have the Wi-Fi, you have the blue screen, you're not challenging your brain at all, right? So that's a really big one. So we give people challenges, and a lot of that comes with just finding a lot of life purpose. And so we work with people on that. And that's one of the best compliments I got from our coaching program when someone came out of it, said, I feel like I have purpose again.
Oh.
They feel like they can do something again with their life. We had one woman that her mom had Alzheimer's, and she was taking care of her mom, and she wasn't sleeping at all because her mom wasn't sleeping. And so she was up every other hour taking care of her mom. She was averaging 2 or 3 hours a night. And then so every waking moment, she had to just sleep, and she had no life. So we worked with her and her mom to get her mom to sleep more. Her mom started sleeping 6-7 hours a night, which meant she started sleeping 6-7 hours a night, which just opened up all this free time to her. Because now she wasn't exhausted. So now she's out, she's doing stuff, she's volunteering, she's cooking for her grandkids twice a week. Like, it's just, she's like, I have my life back. Just from that one, I mean, we did a lot with her. She got off anti-anxiety medicines, she got off depression medicines, she got off sleep medicines. Like, just these are the stories I live for, right? And it's just starting with the brain health first. So she has purpose again. She went out and started volunteering, and the time that she has with her mom, she just felt like she had her life back and she had purpose. She could go do stuff, and her mom went with her, and they did stuff together. So that was a really beautiful story. So that's the next one, supplementation, of course. So supplementation, our food quality is so poor these days that it has very little nutrients. Tomato today compared to the 1950s has about 10% of the overall nutrients.
Wow.
So you honestly can't even eat enough food to get all the nutrients you need to eat. And then the last one, stress relief, is a really big one. Stress is a huge cause of inflammation. And the average American life just has so much stress in it. So we work with people on meditation, breathing techniques. Actually, breathing is one of the pillars itself. Breathing through your nose, really, really important to breathe through your nose as much as you can, even at night, like taping your mouth.
How come? Why does that matter?
So your nose has a filtration system, right? So it's filtering out all the toxins. You have all your little nose hairs. It humidifies the air before it gets to your lungs. Through your mouth, it's just straight to your lungs. So it's not getting that clean air. It's really important to use your nasal passages for everything from like the shape of your face, the shape of your jaw. James Nestor has this great book called Breath. And I highly recommend it to everybody because it tells you how important it is to breathe through your nose. In fact, if you plug up your nose so you can't breathe through it and you're used to breathing through it, he did that as a test, and within 30 days he had hypertension, high blood pressure, like all these different things that happened to him.
Wow.
Just from breathing through his mouth. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one of them as well. And breath work itself. And then one of my favorite ones that most people don't even think of is just being social. And coming out of COVID. That is, we hear it all the time. So many of our customers, it's pretty much ever since COVID started, my memory started going south.
Wow.
It's like, because you're trapped inside and you're being completely antisocial and you're not getting the physical touch of people. So there was an 80-year Harvard study done on men, of course, because it was 80 years ago. And they found the number one thing that predicted how long you lived healthily is how social you were.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know we have clients that drink too much and are not really taking care of themselves, and they're 85, 90 and still really great sharpness wise. And I think it's frankly because they're out like partying with their friends and being social every single day. They get together with their girls groups, and you see that if you look at Dan Buettner's blue zones. It's every single one of those blue zones, which are the areas around the earth where people live the longest, healthiest. Every single one of them. They are so social.
Oh.
Right? That's their thing every single day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So your programs, tell us how you work with people. You're mentioning coaching and you're mentioning, the supplements. Tell me kind of what the
so we start with the supplements. Typically, that's where people come in the door. I'll teach in my workshops, and in the end, I sell one of the supplements. And so then they get in the door, and we introduce them to more, right? And really, that's when we get on the phone with them and we start talking to them. And we call them, and it's so great because how many times do you really talk on the phone anymore, right? With a company that calls you.
Yeah.
And we send them a ton of free resources. We send them free books. I ship a free copy of my book with every single order, hard copy of my book. And,
what's your book?
The Brain Owner's Manual. 3 simple solutions to quickly boosting your memory. So I wrote that about 7 years ago actually now. And yeah, and then we introduced them to our one-on-one coaching program, and that's where they get with one of our memory and cognition coaches, they're certified health coaches that we also put through our very intensive brain health training. And it's a 10-week program. They go through it. They meet with their coach once a week. They also have once a week trainings. It's intensive. I mean, it's a lot, right? So they learn all of this stuff and the why they're doing it. Because so many people, I can tell you, you should go do this. But if you don't know the why, you probably aren't going to go do it. And so we teach them the why, and they just love it. And like I said, that's my favorite story is when people get out of their sleeping medication, or they get off of their high blood pressure, or they get off of their diabetes medicine. We've even had that. Someone is able to get off their diabetes medicine. So it's amazing.
It sounds like you are so passionate about what you do because you get to experience and you work with people and you see the changes you're making.
I do. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I really feel like that demographic, the baby boomer demographic, first of all, they've never done any coaching. So it's kind of teaching them what coaching is. And they're kind of this forgotten generation. I mean, people just assume because they can't do technology as well as the younger generation that they just don't really market towards them, or they just sell them a pill. And I think that's the worst thing. And they are a pill-based society. I mean, it's something like 95% of everyone over the age of 80 is on prescription medication. And that's the way we've raised them, right? And they also were born and raised in the 50s and 60s and 70s, where we started with the processed foods, right? The Betty Crockers of the world came in with, here's your cake mix, instead of doing it at home.
The TV dinners.
And dinners, right? And that's what, they didn't know any better. And so it's not their fault by any stretch, but they still, a lot of them don't know any better. And then the ones that do, they're kind of our favorite clients, the ones that are really active and really want to be preventative, because we get to go really deep with them. And that's when it starts to get really fun. We have our Memory Guru program, which is our one-on-one, and then we have our Memory Guru 2.0, which we go really deep with people, and we start looking at things like their mold counts, because so many people have mold, and they now know it's one of the biggest precursors to Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, my mom has dementia, and we put her through a Recode program, Dr. Bredeson's Recode program, almost 2 years ago now, and we found extremely high levels of mold in her body.
Wow.
And it's not hard to get rid of. That's the thing. It's just a couple different spices. It's adding a couple things to your food, even just drinking cardamom tea, like things like that. Those spices absorb the mold in your body, and then you just flush it out.
Wow.
But most people don't know that, and doctors don't test for mold.
Can you reverse that? So she has dementia. Can it be reversed?
It can. Dr. Bredesen, that's not our business. Dr. Bredesen is doing that beautifully and reversing it at every level. And so you have what's called the MoCA score, and it's from 1 to 30, and 26 to 30 is normal, and then 1 is pretty much almost gone. So you can't take a 1 and make them a 30, but you can take a 1 and make them a 3, right? And so for my mom, we got her in the program. She was at a 19, so 16 is full dementia. And she was at a 19, and she lived with me for 2 months, and we had her on everything. I mean, because we went through the whole program, and she was doing so well. We got her to a 21 within 2 months of living with me. And then, unfortunately, she went back to Colorado, and we put her she's not in a facility. She's still just living in a retirement community, but because she's good. It's just the short-term memory issues, She hasn't progressed any further, which is good, too. Like, she's not progressing. But living by herself, she wasn't doing everything. She's not remembering to take the supplements. She's not remembering to do stuff.
Yeah.
She's not being as active. Like, I was taking her to the silver sneakers classes, So unfortunately, it has gotten worse. It went from MCI to dementia this year. So I'm sad about that. But it's not easy. It's hard work to actually reverse it.
Yeah.
But he is, for people that are committed or at least have spouses or someone that are living with them, it is absolutely reversible to some degree. And it's absolutely preventable, and that's what's great.
Well, and now I see where another side of your passion comes from. You're doing it for so many people's families, you have experienced this. You know what it is to be caregiver.
Yeah. And actually we're developing a caregiver track of a coaching program for caregivers, because I hear so often, I'm taking care of my mom, I'm taking care of my dad. That's why they come to us, because they're afraid of getting it, because they can see the devastation, the burden that it is on the family. Financially is one side, but like the emotional toll, the nonstop, because they become, when they get dementia and Alzheimer's, they become children again.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you have this adult that's 50, 55 taking care of their 80-year-old, 5-year-old again.
Wow.
Right? Like they're just a little kid again, and you got to watch out everything. They leave the stove on, right? And some of them get really paranoid. I mean, it's such a hard toll on the physical person. So we're looking to really start helping with a coaching program for people that are taking care of them. So not only do they get to take care of themselves, but they know how to better take care of the people that they're working with. And in the end, we'd love to do something with the people that actually have it, but that's kind of a whole different specialty. So,
but I love that you're thinking that way. And I think it's really something that's good for us to hear, this whole thing. So be able to prevent it, to take a look at all those factors, to take a look at our lives. So important. Now to kind of jump topics, but I'm really interested because you're a passionate entrepreneur doing your life's work. Like you're in your gifts. And so when I talk to you about the millionaire within her, what does that mean to you? And what do you want to tell everyone watching?
well, I love the business side. That's actually was my first love. This has become a very close, I mean, they're right there, right? But I love the business side and always have. And the numbers, I'm a numbers girl. I'm very bottom line. For me, everybody talks about kind of finding your life's passion and going for it. I got lucky in that I fell in love with what I was doing. It wasn't necessarily, like I said, we wanted to go for kind of that young, bulletproof, alpha brain type audience, and found that wasn't our audience. So I got really lucky that I did fall in love with the baby boomer generation, because I love hearing their stories, right? I think we miss that in the Western world when we don't live with our elders. We miss the information transfer. And that's why information is so hot right now. Everyone's buying information because we're trying to save ourselves from going through these painful events, right? These painful whatever events, whether it's relationship or money or business. And so for me, the millionaire within her, for just purely out of my own story, is persistence and education and network, really.
Perfectly said. And I love examples of women starting with something, saying they can do it, and making it happen, and look at where you are. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming today. Yeah. And now we all get to take a look at the 10 pillars and adding brain health to another thing that we really, really, really should focus on.
Yeah, if you just start with that, you don't have to focus on anything else. I mean, we have people that are losing weight. It just, everything falls into line because they're just focusing on that, right? So, and for me, it just created a beautiful business. I get to expand every year. We have new initiatives. We're bringing it into retirement communities, so we get people where they live. We're starting an academy so that other people can help other people. And I think that's going back to purpose.
Yes.
We're going to have a lot of our clients that can now go into our academy, become a coach, and go help other people their same age. So that's really what we're looking to do, is really broaden it to the average person, right? To bring it to people where they live and their communities.
Love that. So anybody looking to get more involved into this should definitely come and check you out, because that's something that women can do. And I know a lot of women definitely want to help.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it just goes back to, on the business side of things, it's as much as you learn education about this, you learn education about everything else too. And that always, I just learned something the other day that was so transformative for my business. Just like blown away. I hadn't learned about it years ago. And I just thought, wow, this is what it's all about, right? Because the challenge is another one of the pillars. I think that was actually the last one I missed. You got to challenge your brain. You got to learn something new every single day. And it can't be a new song on a piano that you already know how to play really well. It has to be something diversified, right? Keep going out and challenging yourself. That's why I love going to masterminds, and your brain just gets overflown with information, and that is how you stay young and healthy.
Oh, perfect to end it off on that one. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
So many great takeaways on how you can improve your brain health. So I hope you took a ton of notes just like I did.
Hi, my name is Karen Thomas. But guess what? That is not important. What's important is your success online. I can help you start a successful, thriving business online, no matter how many times you have failed. If you have a desire to win, you can. All you need is Wi-Fi, a laptop or desktop, and be able to follow simple directions. Reach out to me and I can show you exactly how.